Sobering news this week for those who believe in progressive politics and worry about the soaring political fortunes of the extreme right in Europe. A January 10 Guardian news article presented research confirming the mistakes made by left-of-center parties over the past 2 decades. The Guardian headline, "Adopting right-wing policies does not help center-left win votes," left little to the imagination.
Faced with a 20-year decline in their vote share, accompanied by rising support for the right and sometimes the far left, social democratic parties across Europe have increasingly sought salvation by moving towards the political center. However, analysis shows that center-left parties promising to be tough on immigration or public spending are unlikely to attract potential voters on the right and risk alienating existing progressive supporters.
The Guardian linked to an older article to make the point with even more force.
The last decade has not been kind to social democratic parties across Europe. The center-left parties that dominated European politics for the second half of the 20th century have suffered a string of losses. Even where social democrats are in power, their position is tenuous. The Swedish Social Democrats, the most electorally successful socialist party in Europe, struggled to form a government after the 2018 election.
Surely none of this analysis would have shocked the party apparatchiks, sitting down to read the newspaper with their brioche and carrot juice breakfasts. Tarek Abuchadi, an associate professor of European politics at the University of Oxford and the co-founder of the Progressive Politics Research Network, is the political scientist powering the Guardian's news story.
We are not aiming to advise or act as political consultants, but to present careful, empirical, data-based research. We're looking to provide a more solid, accurate foundation for an open political debate about progressive politics, who votes for progressive parties and why, and the strategies available to them. That involves a bit of myth-busting. The average social democratic voter today is very different from 50, even 20 years ago, and unlikely to be an industrial worker. The data also shows much of this new constituency is actually both culturally progressive and economically left-wing. Trying to imitate right-wing positions is just not a successful strategy for the left.
This point was underlined by Abuchadi's research colleague Bjorn Bremer, from Vienna's Central European University. Bremer's extensive research showed that since the financial crisis of 2008, fiscal orthodoxy had been a vote loser for the center-left.
Social democratic parties that have backed austerity fail to win the support of voters worried about public debt and lose the backing of those who oppose austerity. Center-left parties that actually impose austerity lose votes.
This is hardly new information, but Bremer's next point hammered home the common truth of democratic politics, that is that voters generally choose left-wing parties during those periods when they are less fearful about the state of the economy. Tony Blair's New Labour and Gerhard Schroeder's German SPD built their political brands on third way, fiscal orthodoxy. The promise to cut taxes, cap spending and limit public debt was seen as necessary to smooth the left's path to power 3 decades ago. But Bremer urged readers not to compare current economic conditions with those of the 1990s, which he claims was a period of relative stability and growth.
We are now in a different era. The data strongly suggests center-left parties can build a coalition of voters who believe a strong welfare state, effective public services and real investment, for example, in the green transition, are essential. But doing the opposite, offering a contradictory program that promotes austerity but promises to protect public services and the welfare state, and hoping voters will swallow such fairy tales, failed in the 2010s, and is likely to fail again.
Left-of-center parties are now putting the finishing touches to the campaign programs they will publish before the European elections next June. British voters are set to go to the polls this autumn. So the publication of this research into the political strategy of left-of-center parties is timely. The choice now before Europe's left-of-center parties is clear. Will it ignore the research, play it safe and press on with its imitate and accommodate agenda? Or might left-wing parties be emboldened by Tarek Abuchadi's findings and put their principles to the public? The suspicion remains that left-wing parties will opt for pragmatism and prudence. the left has spent decades promising to be better administrators of neoliberal economics, because it seemed the only alternative to political oblivion. Just look at what happened to Jeremy Corbyn, who led the British Labour Party at the two most recent general elections. Corbyn, every inch a conviction politician, stamped his beliefs all over the Labour Party manifestos of 2017 and 2019. Here's the foreword to the 2017 Labour Party programme for the many, not the few.
You can choose more of the same, the rich getting richer, more children in poverty, our NHS failing and our schools and social care in crisis. Or you can vote for the party that has a plan to change all of this, the Labour Party. Britain is the 5th richest country in the world. But that means little when many people don't share in that wealth. Many feel the system is rigged against them. And this manifesto sets out exactly what can be done about it. We need a jobs-first Brexit that allows us to upgrade our economy for the 21st century. Labour will invest in the cutting-edge jobs and industries of the future that can improve everybody's lives. Which is why this manifesto outlines a fully costed programme to upgrade our economy. From childcare to transport, housing to lifelong learning, Labour understands how a successful economy depends on services that support us all.
This was stirring stuff, to put fire in the belly of the faithful. It was also a political programme roundly rejected by the voters, under Britain's first past-the-post system. Corbyn fell short in his attempt to build a winning coalition based on women, the young, urban professionals, minorities and Green, Social Democrat and radical left supporters. Corbyn's critics said Labour had lost its way under his leadership and had tacked too far to the left, carving out woke positions on social issues, which left many voters cold. Corbyn's vision of Labour did move his party to the left, and in so doing, vacated the centre ground, to the point where even an Eton-educated Tory Chancellor like Boris Johnson could make a successful pitch to red wall Labour voters. But this is not a post-mortem of elections lost, but a call to action to progressives, who have it all to play for in this year of democratic scrutiny. Britain's Labour Party is sitting on a 20-point lead and is unlikely to make any Corbyn-style grand policy announcements. Elsewhere in Europe, the situation for left-of-centre parties is grim indeed. Geert Wilders' shock breakthrough in the Netherlands last November was just the latest political upset to shatter the confidence of progressives. Alternative for Germany is polling second in Europe's most important country. Far-right parties in Sweden and Finland have transformed the region's reputation as a liberal heartland. Austria's Freedom Party is the nation's leading political force. Hungary's Viktor Orbán is Europe's most established leader, with 4 consecutive mandates as prime minister. The far right is in power in Italy, whilst in France, Marine Le Pen may be just 3 years away from the presidency. Certainly, France's socialists have been eviscerated as a political force by parties from both the left and the right. And any political comeback looks remote indeed, for a party that just over a decade ago campaigned successfully to put François Hollande into the Élysée Palace. What is certain is that the markets and the media, our masters' hidden and not so hidden hands, have little incentive to ease the left's path to power in a country riven by doubts. But that is for another podcast. Thanks for listening.